I would describe him as
Fun.
funny and approachable.
And he really brings a lot of fun into the group.
He can make light of things and make me laugh even when I'm upset about something.
As really passionate.
Passionate and invested.
You know, when he decides to do something, he goes full in, and there's no in between.
My name is Saylar Craig. I'm a math teacher at Singapore American School in the high school. I'm also the sponsor of the Gawad Kalinga Service Club. GK is one of the largest service clubs, and we often have fundraisers or take service trips to the Philippines under GK's overall kind of global mission of eradicating poverty in the Philippines. What that means for us on a practical level is we have a couple of major fundraisers a year. Primarily, the one we're kind of most known for is the Zombie Run in October. The Zombie Run is a large kind of K-12, hundreds of customer scale kind of event.
Think about it once. Oh my gosh. I just want to feel like I can tell them, yeah, I tried.
Me also. When I came back from university and I started teaching at SAS, he sat with me and he said, I want you to know the realities of what the SAS GK Club is now. Because I really had no idea. He was like, look, it's one of the biggest service clubs. At that time we had over 120 members. We go on this service trip that you took the very first students on every year. And we have the Zombie Run, which is the largest kindergarten through 12th grade after school commitment throughout the entire year. And so he basically wanted me to realize the scale of what GK was. And that was the first time I met him, and it just made me realize that you can have amazing student leadership, but you need that teacher to guide you.
If you know that, it goes in here. There's no way to put classroom on the other thing. So, I don't know. I guess I'm just showing you this because if you come across information that you know should go somewhere, but you don't have a place to put it, let me know and I can put it in there.
What's nice about where Zombie Run happens is the years it happens just usually a few weeks before we take our annual service trip to the Philippines, where we go and do the primary service of building in the village and meeting the beneficiaries there and furthering our relationship. So we have this phenomenon every year where we put in all this hours and all this work for Zombie Run and kind of get caught up in the fundraising secondary aspect of the service and kind of go, oh my gosh, that was a lot of work. Why did we do that? And then 3 weeks later we go and there's the whole big trip and the whole big it's usually quite emotional. It's usually quite the opposite in lots of ways from the way that the work in Zombie Run feels. And after the trip, during the trip, we're like, oh yes, this is why we do Zombie Run. We just built these 3 houses for these 3 families, so we should do it again next year.
I've never seen a teacher sponsor or an adult be as passionate and genuinely invested in a club as Mr. Craig is with GK.
He really cares about what he does, and he kind of spreads that to everybody and gets everyone else really involved in it. He'd always advertise for GK, and you can tell that it's a really big part of his life.
I think it's so rare to have a sponsor of a club here at SAS be so invested and care so much about the club and the cause that they're fighting for. And so I think that's one of the really defining qualities about Mr. Craig is that he's so invested in GK.
When I was growing up, I never expected service to be part of my life or part of my career, part of my job as a teacher. When I was growing up and when I decided I was going to be a teacher, it was, I think like most people who decide to be teachers, they want to be teachers because of, they love working with children, or they love academics, or they love the content area that they're studying. But service was never part of that equation. And that's probably because it was never part of my schooling growing up. I wasn't particularly kind of shown how that can happen in a school. It was well after I was an international teacher that things like service became known to me as a thing that would even happen in a school. In particular, there was a teacher that I got to work with really closely. He was the other geometry teacher at that school. His name was Riaz Ismail, and he kind of became the champion of service learning at that school over the years. So took it upon himself to kind of champion service. He really saw the benefit of that. He was really articulate about it, and he was really good about getting people rallied around service, and including other teachers. So I got excited about service. I'd have to say primarily, firstly because of him. I think just being around him and being in his room and seeing the things that were going on and listening to the conversations he would have with students. I still remember when he would talk to kids about choosing a service project or choosing some area of service they want to do. He would always start by asking them what bothers them, and he'd say, you know, what is it? What do you see in the world? And he's talking to usually ninth graders and younger kids. What bothers you about the world, and what would you like to see happen instead? And it seemed like such an open-ended question that middle schoolers wouldn't ever really end up going the right direction about that, but he was really good about directing that and saying, you know, we could do this small thing and we could make this better for somebody. We could help someone breathe easier. We could make someone live better, just on a daily, today level. Like, let's go see if we could do that. And then kids would find out really quickly, just being around him and him being so infectious about that, that they felt rewarded pretty quickly too. And we see the same thing here in GK. Just before I was hired at SAS, he and I were planning to do one of these intersession trips together to Tanzania, and we were in the preparation phase for that trip around, you know, because it was 3 or 4 months before it was going to happen. And around that time, my family and I decided we were going to move to Singapore at the end of that school year and come and change jobs. And because of that, it kind of took me out. That kind of led to a domino effect of conflicts that took me out of that trip. So I felt really bad about, because I was starting to get really excited about taking kids on a service trip, because I'd never done that before. And I pulled myself out of that trip, and I found a replacement for myself. And then I heard about later how great it was and all that kind of thing. And then not long after that was the opportunity I was given to choose my interim trip for my first year here at SAS. And I saw the list of opportunities, and one of them on there was a service trip, and it was the GK trip. And the rest is kind of history. Now, I'd say GK and service means to me a lot more than I thought, I guess, at the beginning, because at first it was just about, let's take a group of kids on a trip and let's see if we can get them to experience more of what the real world is about when it comes to hard work. But it's turned out to be more than that. It's turned out to be more long-term relationships that we make with the beneficiaries in the villages.
He fell in love with the operation and the people and the mission. And, you know, it's become a part of his life, even outside of school.
I keep doing service because I see the rewards that are happening kind of on lots of different fronts. Primarily, of course, the beneficiaries themselves in the Philippines and what that's meant for them, and yeah, and how it feels after you have one of these trips, or how it feels after you meet some of these people and hear their stories, and felt like you've done something, but also that you've learned from them. I also keep doing this because of the change I see in the students here at SAS and the students who are involved. And I keep hearing from parents how thankful they are that we're able to show them things through service that they don't see other ways. I was presented with the opportunity to either do service and, you know, take on some project or sponsor some club. Say I change jobs and go to a new school, and GK isn't there, and something is there that needs a sponsor, and I'm given the opportunity to either do service or find another club to sponsor. I think I'm either going to go. You have to either go all in or choose another club. I don't think there's any in between.
Okay.
Let's look candid while the cameras point at us.
I know. This has been really weird. And this is going to continue for like the next 3 hours.
It's for my grade.
I know, but is it going to be solid for the next 2-3 hours? Okay, good.